I am acutely aware that the National Police Service is an independent institution, and so is the judiciary. But ultimately, we have one master, the people of Kenya. And we must make sure that we work together towards serving not interests of individuals, but the collective interest of the people of Kenya. And therefore, I want to ask for more collaboration, more working together, that the independence that we respect and enjoy must also look at how together, interdependently, can work towards achieving the greater interest and the greater good of the people of Kenya. So I really want to ask for a much more harmonious engagement and relationship between our different arms of government and also our different independent institutions, so that we keep focus not on what is good for one sector, but what is good for the greater good of the people of Kenya. Because that way we will be serving the interest of the Kenyan people. We must, by all means, defend our democracy and the rule of law. We must ensure that we also defend our independent institutions. But we must also ensure that we work together towards the common good of the people of Kenya, and that requires leadership that appreciates that our independence is for purposes of making sure that we serve the people of Kenya. It is not independence for any other purpose. It is for making sure that we draw the lines for us to operationally work towards working for the people of Kenya. And I want to ask for greater understanding, greater accommodation, greater intergovernmental and interagency collaboration for us to achieve what is good for the people of Kenya without necessarily disagreements that can jeopardize the greater good of the people of Kenya. So with this, I am very confident that the transformation, the institutional changes we are going to make, the policy changes we are going to make, the improvement in terms of conditions for service, and the whole capabilities and equipment and tools that will be made available to our security sector will help in making sure that our country continues to be a country based on the rule of law, and that also protects our democracy and the rights of every Kenyan. We are already making progress in all the three fronts. On the reform front, we have legislation that is already in the House. We have legislation that has already been proposed. I want to encourage the implementation team to expedite the formulation of the different policy that have already been worked on, to complete and brush some of the legislation that has been proposed so that we can engage Parliament in the shortest time possible. On matters equipment, we already have rolled out the modernization of our police service. The first phase, we already have equipment that have been purchased for use by our policemen and women, especially in the difficult areas that we have. And that process is ongoing. I committed that we're going to have a 20 billion shilling program to modernize our police. And now we're going to include the other two services as well, the prisons and the NYS, so that we give them the necessary tools for them to discharge their responsibility. I'm very happy that we have started this process. The first deliveries have already been received. And I just want to commit that we are committed to making sure that that process gets to its logical conclusion. Let me also say that we have concluded the procurement of the first 1,000 e-vehicles that will be used by our police and members of the National Government Administration. It is part of our response to making sure that even as we transport or improve the mobility of our men and women, we are also responding to matters climate change and making sure that we are aligned with the requirements of e-mobility. Let me also say that along the same area of making sure that we are equipping these services, already there are houses that are complete. In fact, I was being asked to go and open some for our policemen and our prison service and our National Youth Service. And the Ministry of Housing tell me that in our institutional housing program that we are undertaking under our housing agenda, 32,000 houses are being built for our security services, from the military to the NYS to the National Police Service and to the prison service. And I want to ask the PSS responsible here to make sure that they are in tandem and in line and in collaboration with the Ministry of Housing so that we can provide decent housing for our security men and women. We are aware that in some cases, some of our prison officers live in houses that are not so different from the prison itself. Because if an officer is living in a murder house, you know, the difference between a murder house and a prison is very small. And that cannot be the case. And that is the reason why we extended our housing program to include institutional houses for our military, for our police, for our NYS, and for our prisons. And I want to ask the three services to provide the land, and we are going to work with you. Already, our focus is to build 32,000 units for our security sector. We know that that is not adequate, but it is the first step as we modernize our housing program for our security agencies. And therefore, we want to match our word with what we are doing so that this sector that provides and underwrites our collective security and stability as a nation is better resourced to be able to discharge their mandate. Let me also say that as we move forward with these reforms, I want to urge each one of you to be fully on board and to join in mobilizing the people of Kenya to take part in this transformative journey. The success of these initiatives does not just depend on the actions of the government, but also on active participation and strong support from every segment of our society, from policy and strategic leadership to local community leaders, and from our brave men and women in uniform to the citizens that they serve. Out of the realization that everyone has a role to play, we shall employ an all-of-society approach to the implementation of this strategic framework. Let us therefore work closely together and complement one another to create an environment where our police, prisons, and youth services are not only respected and trusted by the people, but also integral to the communities that they serve. This is how we shall build a future where these institutions symbolize integrity and justice. I take this opportunity to affirm my full commitment to oversee these reforms and ensure that they are implemented to achieve the transformation of our security services into models of public trust and efficiency. Together, we have an opportunity to collaborate and to make sure that these reforms go beyond mere changes in policy and deliver meaningful improvements that will endure and inspire generations that will come after us. And I want to respectfully ask all the other arms of government, our parliament, our judiciary, independent institutions, to support these policy changes that we are making to our security sector, because the security sector is the guarantor for our democracy and rule of law. It is not possible for us to enforce the rule of law and to guarantee our democracy if our security sector is not up to its responsibility and mandate. And therefore, a whole of government approach in reforming our security sector, making sure that the institutions in our security sector have the requisite institutional backbone and framework to support its modernization, and the requisite tools and capabilities to undertake this huge and sacrosanct responsibility, but also the men and women who serve under terms and conditions that inspire them to discharge their responsibility. It is our collective duty as a nation to support, because our democracy is dependent on respect for the rule of law. And the rule of law is guaranteed by making sure that we have men and women who make sure that each and every one of us keeps to the straight and narrow and respects the rule of law. A country without respect for the rule of law will not and cannot guarantee itself as a democracy. Democracy runs on the engine of the rule of law. And that is why it is necessary for us to collectively and as a society and all arms of government support the security sector in making sure that they have the requisite capabilities to be able to undertake the responsibilities that they have been assigned. If we do this together, present and future generations of Kenyans will experience, appreciate, and celebrate the fruits of your commitment to the institution of sound, effective, professional, and ethical national security institutions that will guarantee peace and security as the foundational enablers of Kenya's economic transformation. It is very clear to me that together we can achieve this. And I want to ask all of us